Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now look, we had a massive weekend last weekend. We had another big one 2 weekends before that. This is a much quieter weekend, but there are a couple fights, couple interesting fights to take into consideration. So yeah, there's 3 different fight cards. I'm gonna, I think, mainly just be breaking down sort of main events, maybe a couple of the co-mains or chief supports, but yeah, I probably won't be spending too much time on this video. But please enjoy, leave your comments and let me know who you's gonna think's gonna win these fights taking place over this weekend. But yeah, without further ado, let's get to the picks. So the first event we're going to be looking at is actually probably taking place about now. If you're watching this, maybe it starts in an hour, depending on how quickly I upload this. It's actually the Don King Promotions card, which is taking place on Triller TV. I believe that's in the UK and the US. Now, this card initially had Noel Gavor-Mikhailian versus Ryan Rosicki as, I believe, the main event for the WBC Cruiserweight title. I was really looking forward to that fight, but Noel Gavor pulled out with an injury or something of those something like that. So anyway, there's only 2 fights really for me to now speak about with this card, and the first fight is Michael the Bounty Hunter versus Cassius Chaney. So this is a very interesting fight for me because Cassius Chaney, I believe it was his last fight out where he fought Trevor Bryan, and I think he stopped him in the when was it? I think he stopped him in the 7th round in that fight, and that then equaled back-to-back losses for Trevor Bryan. Michael, it was the Cassius Chaney, then prior to that was Daniel Dubois. So one thing when you sort of look at Cassius Chaney, he's a capable heavyweight, like nothing so special about him, but he's got a pretty good punch selection. The one thing though, he does he takes a little time to kind of to warm up into fights, I would say. He definitely has a bit of a a labored, looking for the right type of punch, sort of type of style and sort of air about him. But he's got decent power. It's power that he has to kind of be able to set up more so than free flowing and God-given. But it's, he's a capable operator. He's a decent level guy going up against Michael Hunter. Now everyone knows that Michael Hunter at one point was one of my favorite heavyweights in the heavyweight division. Obviously a career heavyweight, went down to cruiserweight to have 6 fights down at cruiser, but has pretty much fought his entire career at the heavyweight division. Very well known for sort of taking on much bigger guys, beating much bigger guys with sort of speed, sharpness, precision punching. Been very sort of inactive over the last few years. He has, I think, had two fights back in sort of the last 2 and a bit years. I think prior to that his last fight was in 2021 or early 2022. So he's on the trail back to sort of that world title rankings. He previously was, I believe, the interim WBA heavyweight champ, and he was supposed to be facing Hughie Fury for the mandatory for the WBA, but the fight got called off on 3 different occasions because of Hughie Fury's medical condition. And then because of that, the WBA then actually removed Michael Hunter from their rankings, which was a very it was a very sort of poor decision, very unfair, I would definitely say. And that also sort of reduced the amount of activity he had and whatnot. But now he's back in those rankings, and this is from what I can remember, is a final eliminator for the WBA regular title, or it may actually be a fight for the regular title. It's one or the other, but yeah, it's to put them into position for that title, which then parlays them into position for a consolidation bout with the super champ somewhere down the line. Michael Hunter, very very quick for, you know, by heavyweight standards. Quick hands, quick feet, good movement. He doesn't seem to have, from what I've seen of recent, the same levels of stamina that he used to have, but the accuracy and the guile is still kind of there. Now, we had a loss in his last fight, but supposedly it wasn't an official bout. I think it was lobbied as an exhibition, so it didn't actually go on his record. I haven't seen the fight myself to know if he did lose it or he didn't, but I know it took place in, I think it was Uzbekistan. So yeah, but with that being said, I feel like in this particular fight, just the experience of Hunter, he's not that much older than Cheney. I think Cheney is like 31, maybe 32, and Michael Hunter's like 34. So there's not that much difference between the two of them. But I think that sort of that high level experience from Michael Hunter is going to pay sort of dividends here. And I can really see him sort of using that speed and quickness and elusiveness to sort of get in, get out, raid-in style. Just to work over Cassius Cheney. I don't know if I could see him getting a stoppage. Like I said, I haven't seen enough of him recently in terms of how sharp he is, what kind of damage he's inflicting, but I'm going to go conservatively and I'm going to predict Michael Hunter on points for this fight. No result would surprise me, but that's where I'm sort of going to lean on this one. Now, with regards to, you've got Adrien Broner and Blair Cobbs. I think this is now the main event of the card. Adrien Broner, I think, is 31 4-1 or 35 4-1, sorry, and then I think Blair Cobbs is like 16 1-1. Adrien Broner is not a natural 147 guy. Realistically, he should still be fighting at 140, but you know, just not living the life. He can't get down to that. Now, I don't actually know what they weighed in at. I know the weigh-in was yesterday. I haven't watched it, so I'm not sure. But the one thing is, I think while Blair Cobbs isn't anything special or a world beater, he's actually much improved over his last couple of fights than what he was previous to that. And also, he's just got more youthful exuberance and is a bit more dedicated, and I think he's got a better engine and better gas tank. Adrien Broner is the type that's barely going to throw any punches per round, and I think even if he's blocking, defending and not necessarily getting hit, he's just not going to be throwing back. That's just kind of him in a nutshell. And so because of that, I can't see any other situation than Blair Cobbs' points decision. I don't think he's got the ability to knock Adrien Broner out, or the skill level, punch power even. Broner is quite a tough guy, quite durable and defensively sound, but I just don't see him doing much other than, you know, maybe the occasional flashy shot here or there. So because of that, I'm getting Blair Cobbs' decision, and I'm gonna give it as a unanimous decision as well. Okay, next, also tonight, there is a Golden Boy Promotions card taking place on the DAZN app, which is headlined by Oscar Collazo and Gerardo Zapata. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one particularly, but it's in the minimum weight division, which is 105 pounds. Oscar Collazo is probably the best guy, I reckon, at minimum weight currently. If he's not the best, then maybe at absolute worst, he's number 2. Gerardo Zapata is sort of a much more... He's actually a pretty capable guy himself. He's very capable. He's probably underrated compared to where his ranking would suggest, especially if you was to go on BoxRec and have a look. Collazo, I believe, is 9-0, 7 KOs. And Zapata, I believe, is 14 1-1, but I can't remember how many KOs he's got particularly. But this is one of those fights where I believe it's a mandatory. Now, Zapata is a guy that's definitely even in the realms of 105 is like high risk, low reward, because while he's capable, no one particularly knows him in that realm, and you know, he doesn't really bring anything to the table except a hard fight. But with that being said, I think that Collazo, because he sees what's on the other side of this fight, I think he's looking at some unification bouts, and also I think he's looking to potentially move up to 108, you know, if he can't get the necessary unifications that he's after. he knows that all of that goes away if he slips up at this fight. So I do think he's going to be taking this one seriously, and because of that, I have got him winning this fight. I've also got him winning by very late stoppage. I'm thinking sort of rounds 10 to 11. I was debating whether or not to say go in the distance, and while I could see that, I just feel like if he gets the pressure right at the first half of the fight and invest sort of in the right combinations early on, then he can maybe take the legs away from Zapata later on in the fight, be able to hold his feet a bit more and keep throwing. So while maybe the smart money is to go on the distance, I'm going to go for, like I said, the late stoppage, round 11, round 12, somewhere around there. Okay, so lastly, we're moving over to, I believe it's going to be taking place in the Hulu Theatre, Madison Square Garden on Saturday. Top rank card, headlined by Xander Zayas versus Partick Teixeira. There's a couple of, the decent prospects from Top Rank on the undercard. There's Jahi Tucker. I remember I was actually quite high on Jahi Tucker about a year or so ago, a year and a half. He suffered a upset defeat, a majority decision loss in his second to last fight, and then on his most recent fight, I think he got a majority decision draw. So he's had a bit of a stop, I guess, to his momentum as of late, but I am interested to see how he kind of gets on. You've got Tiger Johnson, so Delonte Tiger Johnson also on the card. Always keen to sort of see how he's progressing. I really like his style. I really like how he's moving. So I'm definitely wanting to see sort of how he deals with his opponent. And also you've got Bruce Shushu Carrington on the card as well. Really like Shushu's style, his abilities. Very sort of very slick on the inside, likes to fight close range to his opponent. Not the biggest of punches, but very crisp, very accurate, knows how to throw precision punches, is capable of getting a very nice knockout from time to time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sort of all of those fights. I'm not really going to sort of judge them based on their opponents, because the opponents as such I don't have a huge amount of knowledge on, and I feel like that's just a bit of a disservice if I did that. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to see how those three get on. Now, if we look at this main event, you've got Xander Zayas, obviously, who is, I guess, the top charge now for Top Rank in sort of that 154 pound division. Partick Teixeira, sort of a bit of an old grizzled warhorse at this time, coming from Brazil. He was the WBO super middleweight champion for a period of time, ended up losing that belt to Costano, who then had the controversial draw with Jamel Charlo before suffering the knockout defeat in the rematch. Teixeira, since the Costano fight, has pretty much been campaigning exclusively back in Brazil for a period of time, but he has racked up a few victories since then. So he is, I guess, at this point a good acid test for Xander Zayas. Now, Zayas he's a capable operator. He's definitely fun to watch, but you can see the limitations in him from early, especially sort of, I guess, within the last 2 or 3 fights. He's had to kind of figure out how to switch to a plan B, because his plan A just wasn't as effective as he probably would be wanting it to be. 18-0 with 12 KOs. The knockouts have kind of, while they sort of came back in the last 2 fights, he had 2 fights before then, UDs, and this other UDs kind of been sprinkled in between them. So while he hasn't got a bad knockout ratio or whatever, but you can kind of see that he's definitely been sort of blessed with a bit of favourable matchmaking at this point in time. They haven't quite given him that acid test step up until right now on his 19th pro fight. Now, Teixeira he's a guy that he's almost like a pressuring pure boxer. He will stay very close to his opponent, normally like behind the high guard, looking to sort of try and throw punches on the counter. He doesn't really look to lead off that much, especially not recently. He looks to wait for you to open up so that he can then try and counter what you're throwing. That particular type of style I don't think is going to benefit him in this one, just because the speed and the movement that Xander Zayas is going to kind of be showing, especially sort of in the first half of the fight, is going to be sort of really telling. So this fight really comes down to, can he be competitive in the first half, whether he was able to win like 2 or 3 rounds, 4 rounds, or even just maybe like 1 or 2, and then really sort of see if he can try and take the fight over in the second half without suffering too much damage in the first. If that's the case, then it's going to be a really awkward night for Xander Zayas, purely because, you know, he hasn't had a huge amount of experience in going, you know, the full 12 rounds, and really having to pace himself in the back half of fights, because I think the most he's done as a unanimous decision is an 8-rounder. I think this is a 12-rounder. I could be wrong though, it could be a 10. If it's a 10, then it's not that much dissimilar, but there's still going to be challenges that he's not experienced yet, because he's never gone past 8 rounds, and that is going to be sort of an interesting test. But because I do see him being able to, you know, do enough work and be busy enough in the first half of this fight to basically try and take it away from Teixeira, probably landing some very eye-catching shots in the first couple of rounds, especially while Teixeira's kind of getting warmed up. I can see him maintaining his lead and seeing it out to a points decision. I do think he's going to get caught with a couple of shots in the middle of the fight, which is going to have to test his resolve, test his heart, and see, you know, does he really want this? But ultimately I think he's going to have just enough, and Teixeira is going to be just weathered enough for him to be able to take the advantage in this one and see the fight out. So yeah, I am going with Xander Zayas on a points decision. I mean, look, KOs could happen late, could happen early, but realistically I think this one goes points. I think Teixeira is going to work hard, but he's going to stay safe enough to do just enough to basically see it out, try and take a couple of opportunities when he gets them, and when those opportunities don't go his way fully, probably at that point he'll just settle to see the final bell. That's kind of how I'm seeing the fight playing out. Could be totally wrong, I could be spot on. Leave your comments down below, let me know how you guys think these fights are playing out, and yeah, I will catch you guys maybe an episode tomorrow, weekend wrap on Sunday, but until then, yeah, I will speak to you soon. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and that's Basis Picks locked.